Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Just put them on the table. Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Thursday, May 1st. It's episode 192, and since it's May 1st, I get to play my favorite drop.
Here we
go. My in-sync drop. I get to
Never
play
gets
it.
old.
I get to play it one day a year, guys. Just let me have my thing. I get to play with my switchboard over here. Just let me do my thing. Anyway,
I didn't know we had drops built in. That's cool.
yeah, you're welcome. What else you want on here? I can put anything
the
you want.
NFL draft chimes last week. That was cool.
Yeah, Dak. I have Dak saying,
I don't play for money.
I don't play for money. I have it's gonna be May. What else do I have on here? I got
Kick his in.
I got the ding ding for trivia.
Nice.
And then I have Sweet Caroline if we ever want that. So I haven't taken that out yet since
That's too bad.
since opening day. You like it. Come on. Anyway,
Who doesn't like Sweet Caroline? You don't like Sweet Caroline?
I like Sweet Caroline.
no, him.
I
You
don't
don't
love it.
He doesn't like
It
Sweet
was okay the first 8 million times you heard it, but I mean, how many times more do you need to hear it?
One
Not a
more?
big Neil
I'm just
Diamond
kidding.
guy.
Really?
Or Red Sox.
Okay, well,
But you don't like Neil Diamond in general?
In general, I'm not a huge fan.
It's just, you don't bring me flowers anymore.
you know we're already we're only 2 minutes in. We're already off the rails. So anyway, yeah, if you ever need drops to put in here, I can put anything you want.
Awesome.
So, Chuck McIntyre, Don Harris, Matt Roy on tap. We have a lot going on, but first, subscribe to the YouTube channel. As always, News 4, Fox SA, download, rate, review the podcast version if you're so inclined. Helps us out a lot. Got a lot of news. Stephon Castle officially named the Rookie of the Year, which was not a surprise in the slightest. Spurs legends of past and present there to present him the trophy, which was freaking awesome. So we'll talk everything you need to know about Steph Castle and what it means for the future of the franchise. Plus, Texas is paying a whole lot of money to a whole lot of players. UT reportedly spending $35 to $40 million on this year's roster between revenue sharing and NIL. Good or bad for the college game, and should there be a salary cap? We'll talk about all that. Plus, the thing that's raging across the nation, the topic that is on every talk show, every podcast, every whatever. So we're gonna dive into it here as well. 100 men versus one silverback gorilla. Who wins? If there's time, we'll get to that as well tonight. So let's start with Steph Castle. So he was officially named the Rookie of the Year. Like I said, not a surprise. He was like minus 1,500 to win it, but he won in convincing fashion. Not as convincing as Wemby, but convincing fashion nonetheless. 92 out of a possible 100 first place votes. The Spurs became the only team in NBA history to have 4 players win Rookie of the Year. No team has more than 3. It was also the 5th time the guys on the same team have won the award in back-to-back seasons. Obviously, Wemby was last year. The last time before that was Cat and Andrew Wiggins in 14-15, I believe, or 15-16, something like that. The other Spurs to win, obviously, Wemby, Tim Duncan in 1998, and David Robinson in 1990. And Luis, you can play that video for me.
I've had the privilege.
Really, really awesome that the Spurs brought out Wemby, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson to present the award to Stephon Castle yesterday. It was everything about the ceremony was actually really top-notch, high class. A lot of people there for Steph Castle.
I think the coolest thing of all was David Robinson wearing a Fiesta Guayabera shirt. Huh? Guayabera.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. Help our pronunciations here. But anyway, that was very, very cool yesterday. And plus, Wemby makes all the other ones look just so small.
That was another topic, right? Dave looks 7'1" compared to Tim, who's 6'11". He looks 2 inches taller. And then Wemby's supposed to be 2 inches taller than Dave, and Wemby looks 7'8".
Yeah, Wemby's almost, it looks like his head's almost at the rim. Like, it might be the angle of Jack's camera, but Wemby looks like 8 feet tall right there.
He's not 2 inches taller than David Robinson.
That's what he's listed as. David might be shrinking, though.
I think Wemby's growing.
But Tim looks not 6'11". David looks not 7 foot. So, I mean, you guys are probably experiencing this, shrinking a little bit in your old age.
I am still exactly the same height I've always been.
Okay.
You may be onto something. He does look a lot taller than, I mean, that doesn't make any sense that he would be that much taller than Dave and Tim.
He's listed as 7'3".
Yeah.
Wemby's listed as 7'3". David, in his playing days, was 7 feet tall.
7'1".
Okay, well, he's not 7'1" now, at least in that picture. Or Wemby is 8 feet tall.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Wemby's growing.
No, or they're shrinking, or both.
Maybe.
But anyway,
Purple makes him look taller.
the purple's a growing color.
Jeremy Sohan said last summer he thought Wemby was still growing.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
think-
For everybody not named Wemby or the Spurs.
and
right?
they said,
Yeah, right.
I think maybe part of it, when he was coming out before the draft, everybody was saying he was 7'5", and then it was 7'3.5" in socks. They measured him.
7'5" in socks.
No, 7'3.5".
Yeah, 7'3" in socks.
So
yeah.
they went with 7'3.5", and that was his official height.
Yeah.
But I think that may have changed
He
because
might
looked
be taller.
7'6".
He might be a little taller now, but I think there is something to David and Tim also shrinking a little bit. Stephon Castle looks short, and he's a solid 6'6". So
Is Tim wearing a Sasquatch T-shirt? That's great.
is he actually?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he
He
is. You're right.
And props to Tim, man. He looks GQ, suave.
I
He
like
looks like
Tim.
a
debonair.
I love Tim's
Yeah.
hair now that he grew it out.
Yeah.
But
It's a good
anyway,
look.
So base it
Steph
off Castle then. If Castle's not shrinking because he's only 20 years old and he's a legit 6'6", Wemby looks a foot taller.
yeah, but David only looks like 3 or 4 inches taller.
That's because of Castle's hair.
All right. Well, you have that going on. So anyway, guys, thoughts on Steph Castle, thoughts on him winning the award and what this year looked like for him going forward.
Well, I think early on, all the way back to Vegas in the summer league, we could tell that he could play. And then he didn't play much early. And then they increased his minutes and he played really, really well. And then he had a tough stretch and they decreased his minutes. And there were some injuries there. He was playing minutes when Vassell was hurt, when Sohan was hurt. And when those guys came back, they put him back on the bench and his minutes went from, I don't know, 26 to 15, and he wasn't doing great. And
He also had that one incident where he got benched.
he had a tough stretch.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks. But then after Fox and Wemby got hurt and they needed him to play more minutes, he had 24 games of 20 points or more. He led all rookies in points, field goals attempted, field goals made, assists, second in steals, something like that. So he had a dominant rookie season. Dominant.
Yeah. I mean, Chuck.
I think the thing that surprised me was not that he won, it's how much he won by. I mean, I didn't expect him to get 92 of the 100 votes, the first place votes. I mean, because, Zach Edey had a really good year too. He led the rookies in blocks, and the dude shot almost 70% from the field. The other kid from Memphis had a really good year before he got hurt.
Well,
He finished in the top 3, right?
yeah, he was third. Jalen Wilson.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that was what surprised me is that the consensus being pretty much a consensus.
I mean, yeah, Castle had a great year. His stats were great. First in points, first in free throws made, first in steals. I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I apologize if I get one wrong. Assists, he was third. Rebounds, he was 9th, and then in minutes played, he was 5th. So I mean, he was in the top 10 for most of the key categories. His plus minus, which you always look at, was also very good when he was on the court. However, I don't know how much you can take away from it sometimes because of just how bad the season was sometimes.
Mhm.
Like without Wemby, without Fox, Devin Vassell missed big stretches, Sohan missed big stretches. They needed somebody to step up alongside the old guys of Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, who played all 82 games, and Steph obviously played 81 games. It's just like it's not a surprise that he won it to me because they needed somebody to score. Like even on bad teams, somebody is getting 20 points a game.
I think it's
Keldon scored 20 points a game a couple of years ago. I'm not saying Keldon's horrible, but the team was bad.
I think it's the way that he scores. The most impressive thing to me about Steph Castle it's the rookie of the year stuff is the way guys like Spida Mitchell, Giannis, LeBron, Booker sought him out after games and put their hand on his shoulder and like, dude, you're on your way. Like they had an encouraging, they don't take the time out for guys like that can't play. Right. But they were like, dude, you keep doing what you're doing and blah, 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 encouraging him.
I think to that point too, just not sorry to cut you off. When De'Aaron Fox was coming over, they're texting each other. Steph Castle, like, I want to play with you. I don't want you traded for me because I want to play with you and Wemby. So
Fox,
I think that goes
another.
Yeah, that goes to your point.
And when you look at his strength and physicality getting into the paint, it's so hard to get into the paint in the NBA. And he was able to that deceleration thing that he does, but he moves defenders. When they're trying to stay in front of him, he bumps while they're still out of position, and he pushes guys back and then dunks on them. And his strength of getting to the rim and finishing at the rim, he could still be a little bit of a better finisher. He missed some chippies, but he gets to the rim anytime he wants. He gets 2 feet in the paint. When he develops a little 10-foot Tony Parker floater, he's going to be in a little mid-range game. He's going to be absolutely unstoppable.
Let's hear a little bit of a montage from Steph Castle yesterday during his winning press conference.
Really towards the end of the season, I had no doubt in my mind that, I'd be here, but, just to hear it, be official is definitely a different feeling. And, to hear it, right next to my family just made it way more special. The guys that I was surrounded with, every day, they made it super easy for me to, just play my game, play comfortable, be confident in it. Because like I said, the support that I get from those guys that, behind closed doors that nobody sees is very impactful. So when I was having down games, good games, I would always get support from them, no matter what. So, I feel like, that they're a big part of the reason why I'm here. Everybody in the NBA probably seen that, I was Rookie of the Year. So coming into next year, I can't really sneak up on anybody like I did this year. So, it's definitely a blessing to be in that position. I don't shy away from, any of those moments. So, just to get everybody's best shot is definitely a blessing.
I like that he's kind of already thinking about next year. He's like, everyone's going to see me coming next year. I got to figure something out. So don't you want to hear that from your young budding superstar?
100%. Like you go into every offseason thinking, how can I add to my game, right? What's the one thing that I can really kind of add to the tool belt? And hopefully he's talking about that, thinking about that. And I'm sure the team has given him a list of, A, B, C, and D that they'd like to see improvement on next year.
He can guard anybody too. That's another thing we haven't talked about is his defense. He will be a multiple-time All-Star. I don't know if it'll be 5 times, 6 times, 2 times, but he'll be a multi-time All-Star.
Having seen him for the whole season, I forgot who your comp was before when they drafted him.
SGA.
Do you think SGA is the ceiling for him? Do you think it's more of a if SGA is a ceiling, we got
he's MVP.
Yeah.
No, but he's better
what's the future?
as a rookie than
SGA
was as a rookie.
That's fair.
He's better as a rookie, way better than Kawhi was.
SGA was on a better team as a rookie, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I'm talking about their developed game.
Yeah. He's
so much better than Kawhi was as a rookie. Kawhi averaged 7 points a game. Of course, he was on a really good team.
Yes, he was.
He did. He also didn't have that outside shot. It took Chip a couple of years to develop that with Kawhi. So if he keeps developing, his ceiling could be. I don't know if they could be an MVP, but yeah, man. He's really, really good.
Does his year qualify him now as untouchable status?
Yes.
Chuck, in any trade?
No, because it depends on who's out there, right?
If Devin Booker's on the line, and is Steph Castle off for Devin Booker?
Yes. Because you trade Devin, you trade Jeremy, you trade your 3 number ones, you trade
anything that's not nailed down or named Wemby or Steph or De'Aaron
or Fox. Yeah.
So there's 3 players. To you, there's 3 players on the roster that are untouchable.
I would not give up Steph Castle because his upside is so great.
You would have to trade for someone like, I'm just going to pull a name out of a hat, Luka. You would have to trade for someone like that to trade Steph.
Well, yeah, it'd have to be a young guy for sure.
What about Giannis?
I would offer Giannis, if I was looking, because the Spurs might look at that. If Giannis is leaving Milwaukee, for Giannis, I would offer Keldon, Devin, Jeremy, number 8 this year, number 14 this year, 27 first rounder, 28 first rounder.
So still no Steph. Steph, you're going to need to include Steph in that deal.
Nope.
Chuck, to you, he's not nailed down.
I don't know
Let's
because
call it.
I mean I look at this. Well, no, he's definitely not nailed down. Not in my mind.
Wemby's
Not
the only
with this-
person that's
Yeah, I mean when you look at what this team and how few wins they've had, granted it was better than last year. We've talked about that a lot. I don't think anything's off the table. I wouldn't say no. This is where we're going, and this is who's going to be here to do
Wemby?
this. Huh? I don't.
Wemby's untouchable.
Well, I mean, who would you
Besides him.
get? I mean, I can't think of anybody that I would give up for Victor, especially under a rookie contract.
right.
So, I mean, no, I wouldn't cross anything off. But like for Luka, no, I mean, I'm not on the Luka train.
I'm
like
just
other
pulling a
people,
name out of
So,
a hat. Like
Well, I mean, Luka's defensive in this last playoff series where they just got bounced was like a 20. So, I think over time we're going to see some warts there. And I don't know that we can, with Giannis too. I don't know. I mean, at his age and
his price point.
his price, and they just got bounced from the playoffs, and you could say, okay, well, the sidekick got hurt and whatever. There's a repeating theme here that, if you get Giannis, does it guarantee that you're going to make that huge jump? Probably. But in the long game, does it mean you're going to be a championship contender? I don't know.
I'm not on the Giannis train either. I love Giannis. I love him. But I think they just stay the course.
I'm with you.
I was laughing about Luka because last night when he hurt his back, like I've felt that before. Like I have chronic back issues. So like when he goes down and he can't walk and he's like hobbling to the bench, I was sitting there with Jordan. I was like, that's probably a back spasm. I know how that feels. I know what that looks like. That's not good.
I ran water through my nose laughing so hard last night after the game when Kenny and Shaq were criticizing the Lakers, and they were really criticizing JJ Redick and some of the moves that he made during that series, and some of the lineups he went with, and the fact that LeBron, they were saying, look, we love LeBron. LeBron's one of the greats of all time and everything, but at 40, he doesn't play defense like he used to, and you can't have him guarding Julius Randle, who just abused him. And then Barkley said, and Luka can't guard a chair.
Well, he couldn't in the second half because his back was blown out.
Well, I mean, that's like Giannis the other night couldn't stop Halliburton when the game was on the line.
Dude,
I don't know.
When my back goes out, I can't bend down to touch my toes, and he's over there sinking 35 footers. Like he played his best. The good old Uncle Toradol helped him out in that second half quite a bit. So I want to get to the UT thing. Obviously, congratulations to Steph Castle, and we'll talk more about the Spurs during this offseason as we get into free agency and the lottery, which is next 2 weeks from now, week and a half from now. So we'll get into that more as we go. But I want to get into the state of college football. So there's a report from the Houston Chronicle,
Kurt Bowles,
who that UT is spending $35 to $40 million on their football team next year between the $20.5 million in revenue sharing that'll be available in July and about $15 to $20 million in NIL money that comes from their Texas One fund. However, there's a caveat there that this might be kind of a one-time deal.
1 year.
That they're phasing out the NIL for the revenue sharing. That doesn't mean that if a nice donor really wants to give some money, that they aren't going to be able to. But they're not planning on spending $35 to $40 million a year because it's not sustainable. However, even if you take the $20 million number, that is the full revenue share that you're allowed to do
for all sports.
That's a crap ton of money that you're spending on amateur athletes. So when you hear this story, I think that like this was so shock and awe for me, at least, because you don't hear the numbers anymore when it comes to college football. You hear, this source says $4 million for this player or $1 million for this player or whatever, but you don't see the huge total numbers.
That's not the total number. You know why? That's not including the third revenue arm of NIL, and that is individual endorsement deals. Like Quinn Ewers had Jeff Davis attorney, Red Bull is on Manning. That's additional money to those kids. Like Quinn Ewers didn't take any money from the collective.
Yeah, his was all corporate sponsorship.
It was all corporate sponsorship. So that 40 million might be closer to like 50 or 60.
Exactly. And so when you look at something like that, and then you have schools like UTSA, let's call it, that's struggling to pay $2 million to players, or even a little bit more than that. what is the state of college football now? Like, this is
It's professional. There's going to be the NFL with its 30 teams. There's going to be college football with its 30 teams in the Big Ten and the SEC, and maybe a couple of stragglers from the ACC that move over,
in Big 12.
and maybe one or two, and then it's going to be everybody else.
I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be Power 4. I think it's going to be the Power 4 conferences. But
Well,
Yeah, I mean, at some point, schools are going to have to make a decision. Is it even worth being in the business of football? I mean, it's not tenable in a lot of different ways when you're talking about this kind of money going out from the entire organization, right? I mean, you talked about that money figure. I mean, that's more than a lot of baseball payrolls.
well, to that point as
crazy.
well, I don't know if you guys saw it last week. Kent State is going down to Division III because they just can't afford to be a Division I school anymore because of how expensive it is to try and keep up with the Joneses in Division I football now. Eventually, there has to be some sort of salary cap. There has to be some sort of structure. There has to be some sort of conference realignment to the point where 4 teams are here, the ones that can pay over $10 million a year for players. And then you have everyone else that has their own championship. UTSA isn't competing on the same playing field as UT and Texas A&M anymore. You could argue that they weren't anyway, but everyone in theory had a chance to win
because
the title.
before it was legal.
Well, even that, Cincinnati
been doing it for 100 years.
Cincinnati a couple of years ago made the college football playoff. Got destroyed, but at least made the college football playoff because of how good their players were. They weren't paying $20 million to players, but at least it was a level enough playing field to where you could potentially have a Cinderella. It's not anymore. There's no Cinderella possible.
There's 2 issues. 1, the amount of money, and 2, the structure of when the transfer portal is open and how that can mess with your team and with your roster. For instance, UTSA lost Brandon High to Cal because Robert Henry was the number 1 back in the running back room. High didn't want to share all the carries, so he goes to Cal. Well, then, great. They still got Robert Henry. And then all of a sudden, right at the portal closing, there's this buzz that Henry was being recruited / tampered with / considering the portal because of the number of dollars that was available to him.
Hey, McEwen.
So what happens if he leaves? Well, High had left for no reason then, right? So they've got to figure out better rules and once a year or whenever it is, when the portal can be open and when it can't be closed. Look, I think everybody, including the coaches, want the kids to have a great opportunity. Cam Ward, great opportunity, right? That's the way NIL should work. But there's, Mike Leach, God rest his soul, before he passed away, came up. He said, if you're going to have unrestricted free agency at any time, they're all unrestricted free agents anytime they want. They can't be drafted. They can't be cut. They can't be traded. He goes, let's put those 3 things in. Okay. You want unrestricted free agency at all times? Then you can be cut or traded.
I want to know at what point we have to get to for something to happen. Like, how long? How long do we have to go until the government steps in or until the NCAA steps in again? I think the NCAA is just so freaking scared now.
I think that trial is going to happen in July, right?
Yeah.
And then that's going to reset the number. That's why it's not going to be 40 million.
It's going to be 20.5 for all.
It's going to be 20, for all teams, and then collectives can go away. Now they'll still be cheating, and they'll still be the traditional NIL, which is Red Bull sponsorships or whatever the player can get. But the Wild West part of it will be tamped down.
But when you have teams like Texas, you don't need the NIL. When you have teams like UTSA, they still need the Bob Wills and the April and Sierra and the $1 million and a half dollars that they can get from those guys to add on to the 2.5 or whatever it is in revenue spending, because they don't have those resources.
Then maybe they'll allow collectives just to put a max number on it.
Or you can allow collectives for schools that aren't already spending the max. You can spend up to 20.5.
Yeah.
No matter if it's revenue, no matter if it's NIL, no matter if it's anything. That would be a solution.
Yep.
But I don't see them doing that now because it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle.
It is, but somebody's going to have to do something at some point, right? I mean, you could start by making these kids sign contracts, make 2-year contracts, making them employees of the school. I mean, what else are they doing?
Yeah,
I mean,
Sark said that the other day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea.
I mean, it's just, I think it sucks for fans, and I'm counting myself as a fan, that the sport that we all grew up loving, which was for the good of the sport, for the good of the kids, for the good of college football. The reason people love college football is because it's for your team. It's for where you went to school. It's for the alumni. It's for everyone that's connected to the university. And now it's like, where's my money? It's turned into something that I don't recognize.
And you know who's getting a free pass on this? Agents. Because it's the agents who are destroying the game.
All right, guys. Last thing I want to get to here before we get out of here. 100 average men wander into a jungle.
How old are they?
Let's call them 28-year-old average size males.
5'10", 185.
The average male in in the US is 5'9", 200.
That's overweight.
He is overweight, but that's what I'm gonna have to clean that up afterwards. Knocked over your drink there, Don.
It has a lid on it.
Yeah, it's spilled anyway.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, 100 average men, 5'9", 200-pound men.
So they're dumping and they're fat and they're out of shape.
Find themselves up against a gorilla who is about 5 feet tall, not on his hind legs, 430 pounds, and can lift approximately 1,800 pounds of dead weight. Who wins?
Is it a fight to the death?
Yes.
Wow.
How
did this creep into the conversation?
Do the
today?
men
A
have
Reddit post.
Oh, okay.
There's no weapons.
There's no weapons, and the
Just-
gorilla has a
Just
strong
Jack
intellect.
Johnson and Tom O'Leary.
Yeah, I don't think enough men. I don't think enough men can get to the gorilla at once. In other words, 100. That number doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send in like waves of 10.
10. Yeah, and so I think he can whip 10 times 10.
Well, no. Here's my theory with this. Big guys speaking for myself. Big guys get tired a little bit more quickly.
Not him.
So
These guys are 5'9", 200.
No,
they are fat and out of shape.
no, but the gorilla is going to have to swing those big arms of his a lot to knock out these guys. Obviously, there's going to be some casualties. We're going to lose some of you, but
Oh yeah.
as long as you're willing to lose half, as long as you're in the last half of it that goes, and you're not like frontline soldier, I think you can survive and beat the gorilla. The gorilla's going to get tired, then you end up getting him down, and then you beat him up.
Yeah.
I think we should acknowledge we're not endorsing gorilla fighting, but if you do find yourself in this situation,
The only way the gorilla wins is if they all come at him like John Wick. You know what I mean? Like
with guns,
well, no, they always come at him one at a time, right?
Yeah.
And so if they come at him one at a time, gorilla wins. Otherwise, it's
You
over
got to
quick.
go with the numbers.
But if they come in mass, how many of them can actually get to the gorilla?
Half.
probably about 10.
Half each time.
No, you're not going to. You can't get 50 guys.
No,
Uh-uh.
if 10 come each time, at least half of those guys. are
So
gonna
there
get
was an
on the
article
gorilla.
that I read. I forgot where it was from. That said that the 100 men in their 20s that are in excellent physical condition could ultimately defeat a gorilla if they are committed to go in united. That doesn't mean it would be pretty. You would have to expect severe collateral damage that would easily include deaths, broken necks, and severe arterial bites.
Yeah.
But the men might end up winning.
You got to be ready to go for the jugular in that regard, right? Eyes and ears and everything else that could weaken the.
That
The
leads me
gorilla.
to another question.
Let me say this. I'm rooting for the gorilla.
Let me ask you one other question here. If you could pick one person, one human to replicate 100 times and send those 100 clones to fight this gorilla, who would that one person be?
Today or person?
Today, right now.
Maybe Max Crosby.
Actually, no, let's make it more fun.
I want to see Bob.
Max
Over
Crosby's good,
I
actually.
want to see
Yeah.
Bob.
Max
fight the
Crosby's
gorilla.
fun. How about Prime Mike Tyson?
Prime Mike Tyson, Deontay Wilder, who's going to be
John,
fighting.
what about John Jones? John
Okay,
Bones
there's
Jones?
another one.
You give me
Yeah.
100 John Jones, I think they could take a gorilla.
I would go with Mark Tuinei back in the day. God bless his soul.
What about 100 Shaqs, Prime Shaqs?
No, not mean enough.
Fair enough.
You got to have somebody who likes to. Some of those MMA dudes.
So are we arguing that the gorilla would win, or we?
No,
What
I'd
side
go
are
with
we
the
on?
numbers. Numbers win.
I'm going with what your guy said. That sounds logical.
All right, I'm going with the men too, for all of human race.
But I'm
Yes.
not going with 5'9", 200 because that is not prime physical condition.
What about 100 Don Harrises?
No chance.
150 Don Harris's, 50 Chuck McGinnick.
Tired
Oh,
after
my
2
goodness.
seconds.
Yeah.
Don would start telling a story about, well, remember back in 1980 when we fought.
Yeah.
He'd walk up and be like, gorillas in my day were a lot bigger than you
We
were.
use bottle rockets and sticks.
We used to do a bit called How Tough Can It Be? And we played Bruce
Yeah.
Bowen one-on-one, and we kicked extra points, and we did all the stuff that people were criticizing and said it's easy to do. And David Chancellor and I fought Jesse James Leha for a round. And if you've ever been in a boxing ring, there is no explaining how, no matter how good your cardio, I was a runner, but within 30 seconds, you were completely gassed
100%.
for some reason. I don't know what it is, because you're not running.
It's
and
just
I'm
a
moving.
different cardio.
It is so different. And James was so laughing at us after he beat us individually that we did it 6 months later, and he fought us at the same time. And he still, like, boom, still beat the crap out of us.
So what we learned is that it wouldn't take a gorilla. It might take 1,000 Dons, though, to beat a gorilla.
Couldn't do it.
That's all we got for you on the Sneakers Cleats podcast today. Remember, download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Zach will be back hosting on Monday. I'll see you guys next week.